So, episode
Right.
6 of Footballocks. Oh, Footballocks. I'm never going to. Just Footballocks. It's meant to be Footballocks, really, isn't it? So, episode
Yeah,
6,
sounds better.
Footballocks. Yeah, so we're doing a little season preview. Just basically updated predictions now that we are about to start the season and we've had a few transfers go through. And so just maybe a little bit of transfer review on each as well. Then we'll have a quick look at Aston Villa versus Newcastle United first day of the season, and yeah, then I think we're just going to do a little bit of a check up on what we're doing for our fantasy, and yeah, I don't know, not that we're
Yeah,
experts or anything, but you know, all right.
speak for yourself. No, I'm
Well,
shit. I'm actually
I
shit.
just that's self-proclaimed. You're an expert at FPL. There you go.
No, I don't. No, I'm shit.
An
I'm actually
expert at
terrible.
two things: FPL and history. So there you go.
Sure.
Right. So should we start with Arsenal?
Yep.
Do you
Um,
have any? Because I think when we did our original predictions, I essentially said I had Arsenal in third, and then I think I put United second.
yeah, can't remember exactly what I said, but I think it was similar. If I was to predict now, I would go second or third. I think. Um, the signings have been good, but I don't know how drastically they improve the team. Um, like Timber, I don't know if it's a huge upgrade. He's obviously one for the future a little bit. And a bit of depth, but he's not really improving the quality of the first team that much. Same with Havertz. Rice obviously is where they improved quite a bit, which is a good signing for them. But I don't. It's not going to be like a title-winning signing. I don't think so. I think second or third. I've got him at. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me right now I have Arsenal in second, just because that Rice signing is transformative. I think at the time when I assumed that they were going to drop down to maybe third or fourth, my thinking was that even if they bring in Rice, at the time there were rumours that sorry, I forgot his name, was going to leave, but because they've actually kept him and they've still got Jorginho at the club, I'm pretty sure El Neny's
Yeah. The
still there as
midfield is
well.
very strong now.
They've now got that great depth, and people were saying last season about Partey being, one of the best defensive midfielders in the league, at least when he was fit and on the pitch. And they just seem to kind of forgotten about him now that Rice has come in. If you imagine the kind of things that Arteta can now do with that midfield, if he wants to play two as a
Yeah.
base, he's got fantastic rotation options to do that. Think about if say you're coming up against a team that's going to dominate the ball like City. They didn't play this way, but on the for the game in the Community Shield. But if they did, they could have had Partey and Rice at the base of midfield.
I
Which
think they did.
did they? I don't think they did.
I'm
I
sure they
can't
both
remember.
started.
Maybe they did. But
But
if you play that kind of defensive midfield against
yeah, it gives them a totally
City,
different option.
yeah, it's a completely different setup for the midfield, but it's
Yeah.
so much more defensively solid, and it gives
Yeah,
you
they did both
still.
start.
Okay, yeah. So
They
that's why
played
they won then. There we
Odegaard
go.
sort of further up.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
as I say, you've then got a plethora of exciting talent that you know can produce at the top end of the pitch. They don't need
Yeah, it does free
necessarily
up
another
Odegaard a
eight.
lot because he played kind of as an eight last year, didn't he? And he
Yeah,
had probably more
hybrid
defensive
8-10, I'd say.
ability than he would have ideally want him having. Because he is obviously a creative player. So if they can, especially against teams against like City, if they can have Rice and Partey as a really solid centre mid partnership, then it just gives Odegaard way more freedom to do his thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Then with the likes
yeah,
of Raya and obviously Timber coming in for more depth, I think depth really um, sort of curtailed their season last year with
yeah,
Jesus getting injured. Now they have Havertz or Balogun that can play there if Nketiah is not, fulfilling his duties. Timber is a huge upgrade on Rob Holding wherever you want to put him. I'd say he's an upgrade on Tommy Asu as well, who's got 2 feet on him, so he can sit
yeah.
on that left back slot with either Zinchenko or Tierney. They've just got so much depth and quality now. I think they can push City pretty close for the league, especially when you lose some such important members of the squad like Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. But let's not get onto City just yet because we're going to go in alphabetical order. Uh,
Aston Villa.
Aston Villa.
Wow.
The boys.
We should probably do it kind of briefly because we've kind of done most of it, haven't we?
Yeah,
Especially the signings. Um,
yeah, we've added depth and
I
quality at centre
think
back,
obviously I'm a
midfield,
fan, so
winger.
gotta gotta be a bit biased.
Yeah,
But I think optimistically fifth, being a bit more realistic, sixth or seventh.
yeah. I
But
think if you consider where other teams were in performances last season, and you expect them to bounce back, but how much they'll bounce back is the big
yeah,
question.
especially Tottenham, I think we can definitely finish again above Tottenham. They've not massively strengthened the squad. Like Madison's a really good signing, but defensively
Postecoglou's
and in their
completely
midfield,
unproven. So
yeah, they just I think our defense and our midfield is as good as theirs, and they've got a new manager in who looks decent, but he's not been in the Premier League before. Like our manager's been there and done it, so definitely can finish above Tottenham. I think we'll finish behind. If I'm being optimistic, we'll finish behind Arsenal, Liverpool, United, and then I think we can finish above both Chelsea and Tottenham. Chelsea is a bit of it's kind of impossible to judge how they'll do.
yeah, I
Uh,
think the main people we should be sort of judging ourselves against at the moment, well not people, but Brentford, Brighton, and Newcastle, because those are the
I
teams
forgot about
in and
Newcastle.
around
Yeah,
us that are kind of in the same circumstances. Tottenham are on a little bit of a different trajectory to us. They're in a little bit of a different stage of their
yeah,
development, whereas Newcastle, Brighton, and Brentford, arguably Brentford and Brighton are sort of slightly behind just because of the size of the clubs. But they're at around about where we are, and I think given how we performed against Newcastle towards the end of last season and in that preseason friendly, I think if we play 10 games against Newcastle with the current teams, current managers, tactics, everything like that, I think we probably end up winning about 7, in my opinion. Yeah, my humble
yeah.
opinion. But
No, I think
so looking at
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a coin toss, really. I think we're ahead of Brighton because I mean I just think we've made really really astute signings plus the manager. That's not to say that they've not made good signings and they haven't got a good squad, but I think the manager kind of puts us a step ahead of Brighton, and then Newcastle. It's kind of a bit of a coin toss, but I do think the manager again and our signings have maybe this window have been better because they had kind of a bigger window last year, but
yeah.
I think yeah, the manager probably puts us above Newcastle. Um, so yeah, I think fifth optimistically, but I think probably maybe I'll go sixth for realistic because I think Chelsea have the potential to have a really good season if everything comes together for them. So
I'm gonna go
um,
ballsy fourth.
oh
Finishing
yes,
fourth. There we go. Right, and moving on. No, not sorry, not Brentford. Bournemouth. God, there's so many B's. Um, you've got Emma Traore, Justin Cliver, Roman Favre, I don't know, from Lyon, and Kirkesh from AC Alkmaar, and Radu on loan from Inter, I believe, is a goalkeeper. Just more depth. Obviously, Traore was there last season. A lot of it is attacking talent, again, apart from Kirkish, who's a left back. So,
yeah,
I'm
quite
not sure how to.
quite a good window, I think.
Yeah, the problem is I feel like they have maybe a little bit of an unbalanced squad in the sense that they have too many attacking midfielders and wingers. They possibly could have put more effort into building up, not necessarily depth, but at least quality in their central defensive positions, maybe that deep lying midfielder role. Because they've already got the likes of Dango Otara. I can't even remember their players now. They've got so many, but I think everyone
Lerma, uh,
everyone knows they've
Billing,
got a lot of players in there.
yeah,
They have got a lot of attacking midfielders and wingers. So I think maybe they're looking to get rid of some of the talent underneath them. Perhaps it's sort of like a upgrade of the squad, and they just haven't quite moved some of the dead wood out yet. But
yeah.
I
They've
see
actually got quite a
them.
few outgoings. I don't actually know who any of these fucking players are, but it seems like they're trying to unbloat the squad a little bit.
I see them probably doing about the same as last season. To be honest, maybe like a 16th, 15th place finish.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. They've got a new manager as well. He looks quite promising. Um, Obviously, a bit of an unknown, but
Mm,
he's done well in his last job in Spain.
yeah,
So yeah, I agree. I think they won't get relegated. They'll be somewhere above the relegation zone. But yeah,
yeah. Brentford.
Brentford's a weird one. Brentford, they haven't got Tony, so
Yeah.
changes everything for them a little bit.
I suppose we
But
kind of knew that anyway, didn't we?
yeah, and they've signed Nathan Collins, who's a good player.
Yeah,
Um,
Sade's permanent. Flacken's decent in goal. You got
yeah, not
Rojo
massively
coming in.
upgraded the squad, but they're the kind of I think Thomas Frank's the kind of manager who sets them up so like structured and rigidly that the personnel isn't necessarily as important as it might be in some teams, and I think he'll set them up well enough to finish roughly where they did last season. Maybe a bit of a drop off because of not having Tony for the first bit of the season, so maybe 10th, 11th. I'd put
Yeah,
them.
I was going to say 11th to be honest. I think without Tony and without clear quality being added, it's depth and it's not bad players. Certainly at Premier League level, some of them. Um,
Mhm.
just it's not enough there for me to think because often in football, if you're not progressing, you're going backwards. You can't really stay
Yeah,
still
true. Yeah,
most of the time. So I'm thinking probably an 11th place finish for me. Um, Brighton, do like their business. Adingra looks amazing, and Cisso's going to be amazing. Evan Ferguson's only going to get better. You've got Buonanotte, Alzate, Sarmiento. You've now got Mohamed Kudus coming in. You've still got Matoma. You've got João Pedro. You've got Dahoud now. There's just
yeah,
so
really.
much talent coming in there. They've also bought a great young keeper from Anderlecht. Was his name Bart Verbruggen?
Verbruggen.
Igor from Fiorentina, who I'm sure they'll get a pretty useful player out of. So I only see him getting better. Whether that translates to the same league position, I don't know. Just because of the likes of Liverpool improving,
Yeah, it's
Chelsea
just
probably
tough, isn't
improving. Um, yeah, that's the tough thing.
it?
Obviously, with me saying Villa fourth, I've kind of messed up. I'll drop it down to fifth just so I can have an actual realistic guess of top four. And I'd say Brighton seventh. I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's a hard one. I think for me, it might depend on whether Harry Kane stays at Tottenham.
You think?
I feel like seventh, eighth. So who have we got?
Well,
City,
before
Arsenal,
before we
United,
go down
Liverpool.
the rabbit hole, one thing I would say is we are doing it based on the current updated squads after the transfers that have gone through up to this week.
Yeah,
So if we try and make it too much about what's going to happen in the future, we set
yeah,
ourselves
true.
up just to.
Um, I'll go currently. I'll go eighth. I think Tottenham might pip them to seventh,
Oh, okay.
or maybe ninth. Because if you if Tottenham and Chelsea both improve, you've got Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea, and Brighton. That's 9 teams, isn't it? With the current top four, like Liverpool, Chelsea, no, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Man United.
Hmm.
So it's like one of those teams has got to finish ninth. Do you know what I mean? One of Newcastle, Spurs, Brighton, Villa, or any of the top four have got to finish ninth. So I might put Brighton ninth.
Oh, okay.
It
Brighton
feels
ninth.
really ridiculous and really harsh, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna say ninth because I think I don't know. They've made a lot of improvements, but I guess a lot of their players, as is the way they do their business, a lot of them are unknowns.
Yeah.
Some of them not come off. Um,
I just the magic of Brighton and the talent they
no, like
find,
it probably
the
will work out. They'll
manager,
probably fucking finish fourth or something.
especially
But
with the likes of Kuduc coming in and Dahoud who are established. Well,
yeah, true. Yeah,
Kuduc is an established talent, but he's not necessarily an established pro, if you know what I mean. Whereas
yeah,
Dahoud is that established, experienced, top flight player playing in a Champions League club. So I really am optimistic about this season. I just don't think I think they'll play better potentially they did last season or at a similar level, but it might not translate to as high a league finish. Is the only thing. Next up, Burnley. So you got Jordan Bayer from Borussia Mönchengladbach, I believe he is a centre back. Michael Obafemi from Swansea. Dara O'Shea from West Brom. This
Didn't
guy
know.
called Zeki Amdouni from Basel, 16 million. Quite pricey. Never heard of him. Could be quality. Could be absolute nonsense. Don't know. James Trafford looked quality in the under 21s. For Man, has come in from Man City. This is in
Yeah.
England under 21 euros. Nathan Redmond on a free from Besiktas. Koleosha
Oh
from
shit.
Espanyol B, who's relatively unknown but a talented winger. Jacob Brun Larson on loan from Hoffenheim, pretty hard-working player but nothing special. And Sander Berger from Sheffield United, which is really interesting considering they've come up together. Um,
Yeah, I think that's quite a good signing.
yeah,
I don't know why Sheffield United would want to get rid of
well,
him.
I think they're financially in a bit of a hole, but
Right.
obviously Jacob Ramsey on the verge of completing a deal to go there. Not Jacob Ramsey,
Aaron.
Aaron Ramsey is on the verge of completing a deal to sign there from Villa, potentially with a buyback clause. So hopefully we won't be losing him permanently. But looking at the incomings, they're doing a lot. They're cooking. I
Yeah,
think
they look decent. I think
they're kind of
16th,
going.
17th.
Yeah, they're kind of giving me like a sort of Brighton vibe. You know, signing like these old English pros like Nathan Redmond for free, and then random
Yeah, they're
unknown
clearly trying to
talents
be
on the bench.
smart about it, aren't they?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting way of going about it. I'm really intrigued to see where they finish. I think they could perhaps get about 15th, 14th for me. I think.
Maybe. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
depends how competitive the teams are down there, because Fulham kind of had an amazing season last year, um, but they kind of profited from the fact that a lot of teams around them were quite weak, and they did really good business. They had probably a more established team, I think, maybe than Burnley, because they had Mitrovic and players that had done it before,
yeah,
and a manager that had done it before. Um, but yeah, there's definitely potential for Burnley to have a good season. At the same time, there's maybe potential for them to have too much of an inexperienced team and it'd be a bit messy.
yeah. Absolutely,
Um,
it's definitely going to need to be managed well, and I think companies are the kind of guy to do that. He seems like he's a proper leader. He holds real authority within that dressing room, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that team really mature in the Premier League this year. To be fair, um, so
so
yeah,
what are you saying?
I think 14th. I'm going to go for.
Okay, I'll say I'll go 16th.
Okay, Chelsea.
Yeah,
Now
fucking hell.
this is so interesting. Ah. Um, so where have I put? I've put Brighton 11th, Arsenal 2nd, Villa 5th. So
Yeah, I'm gonna write shit down actually, because otherwise I'm just gonna end up making a table where I've got the same team in the same position
yeah, so we've got
like
a
4 times.
ton of business to go through here. So okay, let's have a look. Who actually matters here? Bamiyang's gone on a free. Pulisic has left. Uh, Aspilicueta's gone on a free. Mason Mount's obviously gone 55. Loftus-Cheek out for 14. Edouard Mendy out for 16. Havertz is gone. Kovacic is gone. Koulibaly's gone. Kante's gone. So you're looking at most of the senior first team have gone. Um, it's exciting but scary at the same time. You've got Christopher Nkunku, exceptional
Yeah,
talent coming in. Nicholas Jackson, who looked decent and now has had a great pre-season, looks like almost a bargain buy at £30 million. Diego Moreira somehow in on a free from Benfica. Um, Alex Matos, no idea. Angelo from Santos has gone straight out on loan to Strasbourg, so not much you can learn from him. Leslie Ugochukwu from Rennes, who I've sort of heard about but not really done my research on. I think he's a pretty decent defensive midfield talent, so at least it bolsters their midfield a little bit more. Um, Robert Sanchez and Axel Disasi, so let's have it right. Defensively, they are absolutely stacked. So
yep,
with a defence with that much depth and talent and top line quality in Thiago Silva at least, you could then say Badia Shiel and Fofana are a little bit behind. That's obviously at least I'd say a Europa League level defence. What
oh yeah, easily.
my sort of concerns are is that midfield's going to be completely new. The attack's going to be mostly completely new, other than what Sterling and Madueke, who's basically new anyway, and Mudryk, who's basically new anyway. It's a
Yeah,
super young squad, still bloated. None of them really know each other. So yes, I think they'll have a bit of a bump, but I don't see them finishing above eighth, to be honest.
really.
Yeah, I think I'm for now. I'm happy to put them eighth.
Damn.
Yeah, one below Brighton.
Hmm. Damn. I'm gonna go fifth.
Ooh, big
Um,
bump. Remember they finished 12th.
I know. And that was a shocking season, obviously. Um,
Yeah,
but I think they've just basically everything they're doing now is with a lot more intention and purpose. They're letting the manager have more of a role rather than the owner just fucking do whatever the hell he wants.
yeah,
Obviously, Pochettino's a really good manager. He's done it before. He's done it before with Tottenham with like potentially a worse squad on paper, but also a squad that had been built over a long period of time, where the players knew each
yeah.
other.
And you had those focal points like Harry Kane,
Yeah.
Heung-Min Son. So
Um,
you did have something to build off. This is such it. This is kind of like you go into a place of work, right? And you've got this job at this company, and you've heard about this company. You know they've got a really good team that you're joining or whatever. And then you get there, and like a month before, they've all been fired, and there's just a load of young guys like you in there. It's like, yes, on the one hand, even though they're good prospects and good talents, it's exciting because something could happen theoretically with a very good manager. But just that situation in itself, those circumstances, I don't think I can back them to jump up to
yeah,
Champions League
no,
winning
it's a good
side.
point. I'm kind of doubting myself really,
Don't let me
but
get in your brain.
I know, but like you do make a good point that it's all just so new. But I think um, I like the players they've signed. They've obviously signed a lot of quality, and I just rate Pochettino a lot as a manager. And I think the main thing for me that is that he's a manager who doesn't take any shit. He won't allow for a bloated squad. Like they've got rid of a lot of dead wood. I think he'll just approach the season with a lot more experience and a lot more intention than they did last season. And if he can kind of put it together, because they have had a pre-season with the most of their new signings, like they did their business fairly early. I think if you can pull the team together, I think there's actually like loads and loads of quality there. Like it's obviously a really good squad. The only thing is maybe midfield because they lost Kovacic and Mount, and they lost Jorginho last year. I do think the midfield is potentially a bit of a problem area.
Yeah, well, you never know. They might get Caicedo, but as it stands,
That's the thing.
you know,
If they don't sign a kind of a defensive midfielder, I might like revise that. But no, I don't know. Yeah, midfield might be a problem, but I think I'm just gonna fuck it, fifth.
fair enough.
I think they'll have a good season. I think it'll be like it won't be brilliant, won't be top four, but they'll be in the mix with Villa, Newcastle, Brighton for sort of those positions.
Yeah,
Um,
Crystal
Crystal
Palace.
Palace.
Yeah. So Jefferson
What
Lerma
do you say
in
about Crystal Palace?
Mateus Franca from Flamengo. So unknown Brazilian quantity. We could, I'd say we put him. His mean average ability is probably similar to the level of the Crystal Palace squad, with a standard deviation of Ballon d'Or or Sunday
Wesley.
League. Like we don't know, so it's not going to say too much about him. Jefferson Lerma, known talent, good quality, comes in and helps add depth and to that midfield and
Yeah,
quality. So
it's kind of weird, isn't it? They've just not really done anything.
yeah, they've
They've
lost
lost
Zaha as
Zaha,
well.
and that's basically the only significant thing that's happened in their windows. They lost Zaha,
Yeah,
which is a bit of a bummer.
I think
But
they've cut a bit of that squad depth, a bit of the dead wood, which is always good. Maybe they'll sign someone by the end of the window, but as
mm,
things stand, the thing is with Roy Hodgson at the helm, that squad transformed towards the end of the last season, and I don't see that not necessarily continuing.
yeah, I think like especially last season. their kind of most impressive players were Elise and Eze, and Zaha, while is a brilliant player, he didn't have the most amazing of the season. He didn't seem like, I mean, I didn't watch that much of them, but he never seemed like he had that talismanic quality that he has before at Palace.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's not necessarily a huge deal that they lost him because they've got a lot of attacking talent even without him.
Yeah, I think even looking at Lerma coming in might give a hint to the fact that they're going to have maybe a little bit more of a conservative midfield that's going to be a little bit more about working hard, winning the ball back, and driving with it up the pitch to then
Yeah,
give it in these final third areas to possibly Eze on the left, Elise on the right. Perhaps Eze won't be in like a 10 or number 8 role this season just because of that Lerma signing, and then they have got 2 or 3 strikers as well to rotate into that spot. So I think he might play a little more of attacking role. I think they just might feel a little more free and a little more settled this year. So I think for me, I'm going to go ahead and put them 12th.
yeah. I think I need to like remind myself what teams there are in the fucking league.
Yeah. Well, so
Um,
far we've got Arsenal,
oh yeah,
Fulham,
okay. I'm gonna go 13th.
Brighton, Brentford. Yeah. 13th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Everton.
Everton's an interesting one.
Ashley Young. Now he's in. They can't lose.
Yeah,
And I,
Europa League spot.
yeah. The thing is, I have my opinion set. I know where I think they're going to finish. It hasn't changed, even with Ashley Young in. I just don't. Yeah, I'm trying not
You
to
got them
let.
going down.
Yeah, 18th. I'm trying
Whoa.
not to let the signings of Young and Danjuma change my opinion too much because Danjuma's not a Dyche player. Ashley Young definitely is and will add quality at right back. But
hmm
again, he's 38. At some point, it falls off. It happens to everyone.
Not
Um,
Ashley Young.
yeah, perhaps not. In terms of outgoings, Ellis Sims as a backup striker's gone. Begovic backup keeper's gone. Yerry Mina as a backup centre back's gone. Tom Davis has gone. Andros Townsend's gone. Nielsen
Yeah,
Kunku's gone. Moise Keane has officially
I kind
gone.
of was feeling a bit more optimistic for them earlier in the window because I thought Dyche has come in. He's obviously a good manager, and he's a good manager for a team that's in the shit and maybe doesn't have much money or whatever. Um, and I don't know, but
He,
like
he
just the
didn't
fact
really
that
do much when he came in.
well, not really, but he's. I mean, he kept them up. That was his job, wasn't it? He basically sort of stabilised them a little bit, I suppose. But I figured if he got a few of his own signings, they might improve. But
I think he was massively helped by Leeds and Leicester just being god awful. Like
of course, yeah, but he
if
got some results. Like he beat Arsenal.
yeah, but I think if you look at the way they played and you look at the way Leeds and Leicester played on the pitch, underlying numbers wise and the style of play, it only would have taken a small bump from either of those teams and Everton would have easily been relegated.
Yeah,
Whereas
but
with them, I think it'd take a lot of improvement to make them a team that's going to easily, be clear of the dropout zone. That squad and the manager, the way they play, it's set up to just be on the brink of relegation. And after 2 years in 17th, I just see a drop to 18th. Is it 2 years in 17th? It is, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair enough. I think they did improve under Dyche. But yeah, the thing that worries me is he's not really made any of his own signings. Like they've still got a big problem at centre forward if Calvert Lewin gets injured.
Mm.
Um,
Well, Dan Juma's now there, but again, he's
yeah, just different players, not a Dyche player.
yeah.
But I think they'll stay up. I've got them 15th.
Okay.
Um,
I think
that
that's
could
where
it could
that's where
be
I've put. I think I put Bournemouth there, haven't I? Why have I put them
yeah.
16th?
I've got Everton 15th, Burnley 16th, Bournemouth 17th. Those three
Okay.
could completely
Yeah. No,
change
Bournemouth is
positions.
my 15th, I think.
But I don't. So yeah, I think they'll be in that bracket, but I don't think they'll go down.
Okay. Right. So Fulham, we've got Raul Jimenez in, Calvin Bassey in, Gazaniga out. No one else of particular note out, although Mitrovic is heavily linked with a move
Yeah,
to Saudi Arabia, so that is potential consideration. Obviously, as we said with Kane, you don't really want to be taking into account signings that haven't happened yet. But if they look pretty bang on to happen, like Aaron Ramsey, for example, then I suppose we can include them. But the problem is with Mitrovic going is it's such a major disruption to that side.
Yeah,
You kind of need it to happen to really count it, because it's going to swing it so far either way for me
yeah,
whether he stays. Raul Jimenez passed it, not good enough. I'm sorry.
no,
Calvin Bassey, on the other hand, while he may not have had a good season at Ajax last year,
yeah,
he
good
could
signing.
be a significant improvement on
Yeah,
very old Tim Ream. Um,
yeah,
I think a centre back partnership at least of Calvin Bassey and Tosin Arabadayo was not bad at all. Anthony Robinson and who's the right back they had?
can't remember.
Mbabu, I think it was.
Oh yeah,
Um, they seem like fairly good quality players. I think Mbabu's more defensive as well. So I don't see him going down. I do see a good drop off. I've got 11th and 12th filled. So I'd probably say 13th, one place ahead of Burnley, I think.
fair. I've got 14th. Um, yeah, hinges on them losing Mitrovic a little bit, but even if they do, I think they've got more than like Bournemouth, Everton. You know, they've got enough to have like a reasonable, fairly comfortable like season.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably won't scrap.
Yeah, I think they've got a settled squad. They've got a good quality manager.
Yeah,
Um, they've got players overperforming under that manager. At least people like Harrison Reed, things like that. So I can see them still performing in the Premier League to a decent level. If Mitrovic goes, they're a big candidate for me for potential relegation alongside Everton. Like I'd put them down like 17th, because their biggest asset is gone, like the hub of their side
yeah,
essentially, other than João Palhinha's gone. And then as well, we did see last season they massively overperformed their XG against. They should have conceded way more. It was just essentially the goalkeeper that bailed them out a ton of times. Um, they didn't deserve to finish where they finished last year based on underlying numbers, but of course, that's not how football works. Where you finish is pretty much where you deserve to finish most of the time. So, you know, with all that being said, it's quite a tricky one to pick. I think it is one of those ones that swings a
yeah.
lot with Mitrovic, to be honest.
Probably, yeah. I think if they lose him, they'll still be all right. I think it may be. I've got them 14th. It may be if they lose him, it puts them more in the battle. But I still think they've got more than other teams down there. And
Yeah,
also, if he goes to Saudi Arabia, they might get a decent fee. They might have a bit more money to sign another player. So I still got them to stay up if they lose him. But yeah, I'd bump them down a few places. But
yeah.
I still think they'll stay.
Okay,
Um,
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
McAllister in, Szoboszlai in. Only players in so far. Of course, what's that defensive midfielder at Southampton who came from Manchester City? He's 18.
Oh, Lavia.
Yeah, Romeo Lavia. He could add quality, but again, that's going to mean your defensive midfield depth is essentially a right back who just likes to pass, and then two 18-year-old defensive mids. So in Bajcetic and Romeo Lavia. So even though I'm really excited about Dominic Szoboszlai um, and the overall talent that they do have in that squad in the forward line, Nunez has looked great in pre-season. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Their attack
defensively,
looks scary, to be honest.
yeah, defensively they're still going to be solid, I believe. So I can see them finishing fourth, to be honest. I don't think they're going to be as good as the Liverpool of old. I think they're going to take some more adjustment time,
Yeah,
especially just because if they do have two 18-year-old defensive midfielders, it's not a recipe for Champions League necessarily. It's
yeah,
so inexperienced, and obviously that side needs a year to gel. A completely new midfield always takes time. Um, so while I do see a big improvement, because obviously they're still stacked, I don't see them being as a complete sort of product as we might see from United, Arsenal, and City.
yeah. Pretty much agree. I've got them fourth. Yeah, attack looks scary. Defense is pretty settled, but very thin. To be fair, if they get an injury in defense, they could be fucked. And yeah, midfield, while they've added a bit of quality, is still very thin. So I think pretty much exactly what you said. They'll have a good season, but they're not settled enough for like a title challenge or anything like that.
Yeah. Or we could see
Um,
a complete collapse under Klopp. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, it like tends to happen to most managers. Klopp might be in the boundary of managers where he doesn't seem to get affected by that kind of thing. Like
Yeah. I think
he's clearly good at building a squad and stuff.
yeah, towards the end of last season, with him bringing Trent into the midfield, I think we sort of saw him acknowledge that you can't do the same thing forever.
Yeah, changed things up, and yeah, he's got that flexibility about him. Also, moving Henderson and Firmino on is kind of astute because he's obviously recognizing they're going to have to do things differently. They're players that he's relied on for years and years, who've still got like a fair bit of quality. But he's thought like we're going to have to do something different now. So I think I can't see a collapse because I think he's just got the
Yeah,
astute to
agree.
change.
Yeah, it's a possibility that's there, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
I think it's
think.
possible, especially with injuries. Like their main thing they seem to be hampered by is the fact that he can't build a proper squad because they don't seem to make enough signings.
Yeah,
Like maybe if they have a few injuries and then morale gets low and then like the inexperience and youth in the squad, all gets too much. That is a possibility, but it would kind of have to like everything would have to align for that to
yeah.
happen.
I think it
It's
might be a
likely
little bit
anyway.
rash to say that he is an adaptable manager that clearly, is flexible. I think he's just entering. I think he's just learning that now and developing that now. I think mostly we've seen him just sort of plug and play with a lot of the with the
Yeah,
Liverpool
he
a lot
does.
of the
He's
time.
obviously very principled, isn't he?
Yeah,
Um,
so I think it might be a little bit hasty to say that he's good at that now, but he's certainly improving in it. So I think they'll improve throughout the season as well. But yeah, mostly hinges on more signings, to be honest. We could even drop them down to sort of fifth, sixth, if depending on how much you believe that midfield's gonna play a part.
yeah, I
But
agree. I mean, they could even finish. They could finish fucking seventh. Like,
yeah,
I
but
think that
you
I
know,
don't know. They're still quite a lot more settled than teams like Chelsea and Spurs, aren't they? Like, even though they've kind of
yeah,
things are changing a bit, they've still got like the core. They've still got fucking Allison in goal
and they've
and Van
still got
Dijk,
Anfield as well.
Trent,
So
Salah.
it,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
playing at Anfield as well. I think we'll
yeah.
just like we saw last season when they went on that run. Half of that was Anfield just being
That's the thing. Even when they're
incredible.
shit, they don't lose at Anfield.
Yeah, so
Um,
yeah, I'm sticking with fourth.
yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that.
Luton, I'll go through the signings, but we probably have the same answer for this. Ogbene from
Yeah,
Rotherham, who? Mads Anderson from Barnsley, who? Tastif Chong from Birmingham, rejected from United, I believe. Is it? Yeah. Looked all right in the Championship. Eh. Marvelous Nakamba, go on the boy. Mr. Kabore on loan from City. Ryan Giles from Wolves. Obviously played at Middlesbrough with Ramsey and Archer last season. They're building a
you're
Championship
missing
squad.
Ross Barkley, mate.
Yeah, I saw that at the end. And I was like, do I even mention that? Yeah, they're building a Championship squad. I think they're doing. They're doing.
Yeah, they're expecting to go back down, but be stronger in the championship
Yeah,
next season,
they're doing
aren't
a bit
they?
of a Norwich, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean 20th, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh,
City.
I'd like them obviously to survive, but not now.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about Luton. 10,000 seat stadium,
No.
tiny club.
Yeah, City
It's not
again,
great.
kind of similar. City are just going to win the league, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's this discussion. There's this discussion now that we've got because Gundogan's left. Cancelo might be sort of iced out a little bit, and then obviously, Riyad Mahrez has been incredible for them over the years. Do they drop off a little bit? You think? I could see it start of the
No.
season. Perhaps they don't look as good, but they do that all the
Well,
time.
yeah, they always start slowly, don't
Yeah,
they always have a bit of change in summer, start a little bit slowly, ramp it up, and then chase whoever's in first and make them shit their pants, basically.
pretty much.
Um, they've replaced Gundogan with Kovacic, which is kind of like for like. Kovacic's maybe not as good. Will take a bit of time to settle, but still obviously a very good player. they've signed. Well, no, they haven't signed anyone in place for Mahrez, have they? But I think they've got enough. They've got that
Yeah,
guy scored.
Foden can go out there. Cole Palmer can go out there. You've got Bob,
Um,
Oscar Bob, who looks
oh
incredible
yeah,
in the
he's
youth
very young though,
system.
isn't he?
I think he's like 18, 19.
Okay,
Yeah, so he
yeah.
could get some game time.
Bernardo Silva can play on the right as
Bernardo
well.
Silva's here. So they've got plenty of players who
Yeah,
can
they've
fill
got
those
loads. It's not
spots.
really a problem.
Yeah, and you've still got the likes of Maxime Perrone and Angel Herrera, who are two midfielders that they've owned for a while now. Actually, no, sorry. Perrone they only got last summer, I think, or last January, but they've had Herrera for a while, and that's more midfield depth that they just haven't used yet because they just haven't needed it. So
Yeah.
I think they'll be absolutely fine. Probably a little bit closer this year than it was last year, but I back them for another title.
I mean, last year was fairly close. Like, I mean,
I think it
by
ended
the
up
end it
being
was
about
comfortable, but
8 points or something, didn't it?
yeah. But I mean, they were second in the league for like the majority of the year.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, purely on a points basis, I think it'll be,
starts, isn't it?
a little bit closer. Looking at some of their other outgoings, you've got Shay Charles going to Southampton, 15 million, youth player I've never heard of. Sorry, Yangel Herrera's gone. Not
Oh,
back at the club. I thought he had returned off loan, but he's been sold permanently to Verona, so that depth's not there. Benjamin Mendy's gone. We won't talk about him. James Trafford gone. So yeah, mostly Carlos Borges, some random youth
yeah.
players gone for
It's just
12.
no one that significant, is it really?
Yeah,
Except Mahrez.
well, I'd say Gundogan's more.
Oh, and Gundogan, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but either way, title winners. Manchester United.
Yep.
Got them finishing third.
Yeah, same.
Mason Mount,
Um,
obviously going to add depth and quality, versatility. Andre Onana, clear improvement at least.
yeah,
from
I'm
a
excited about
goalkeeping
Onana. I'm
ability.
excited to see him play.
Yeah. Rasmus
Um,
Højlund is going to be a massive gamble, but at least with that pace and physicality, you're always going to be able to get something out of him.
yeah, well, that's the thing is that they finished third or fourth last year, with Weghorst up front for a fair decent portion of the year. Højlund, while he has a gamble for how much money they paid for him, you can assume he's going to be an improvement on Weghorst. And I think like Ten Hag's the kind of system manager where he's got positions for some players where the striker, for example, doesn't necessarily need to score loads of goals. It's as much about his positioning on the pitch and his pressing and things like that. Similar to Anthony on the right as well. Anthony, everyone said he had a terrible season. I'm not saying he had a great season, but I think he has specific instructions to stay out really wide and just like stretch the pitch and push the pitch back and press. And so while he doesn't like have great numbers, he served a specific role in the system, and I think Højlund will just do the same thing better than Weghorst. It's an upgrade. So yeah, I think their squad's definitely improved pretty significantly. They've lost De Gea, but they've improved him. They've lost
Elanga is pretty much the only,
Elanga.
and Tellez. They're the main
Yeah.
ones who've gone. It's not really a huge loss. I would be a little more sceptical about Rasmus Højlund just because if he's running in behind, well, I don't know how much Erik Ten Hag is actually going to have him running in behind, just because of having Marcus Rashford out on the left-hand side, and then obviously one of Anthony, Fernandes, Mount, or Sancho is going to be playing on the right or in the middle as well. That's a lot of attacking players. He might have to play a more traditional number 9 role to get a lot of goals. Not sure exactly how that's going to work, so I'll just sort of wait and see, because you've got a lot of players there who all want to do similar things.
I don't know. I think
Rashford.
From what I've read of him, he's quite versatile. He's obviously physically very imposing, but I've read that his hold-up play is quite a significant part of his game because he's physically really strong and his ball control's decent. So
yeah,
I think he's got the versatility where he can play. He can play with Rashford and allow Rashford to go ahead of him and drop deeper, or he can do it the other way around. So I think he'll work out for them. I don't know whether he'll live up to 72 million. That kind of remains to be seen. But I think it'll be a good signing. I think he'll have a decent season.
Yeah, I can see him being an improvement on their course, but yeah, so I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm probably more skeptical on his goal scoring ability than his hold up play, just because when Weghorst came into that side, people were really questioning that, but he showed how in a Ten Hag system a player who's good at holding up the ball can provide so much benefit to the players around them.
Mm.
So I'm not too concerned about him making his teammates better, but whether he will get the goal output, I'm just not sure about. So
Yeah, I guess
yeah,
that is the
third
worry,
place.
is that. But then, you know, maybe Ten Hag has just realised that when in a team with Rashford and Bruno Fernandes, you don't necessarily need a 20-goal striker.
Yeah, I suppose.
So yeah, if Rashford has another good season, they don't necessarily need a load of goals out of him.
Yeah. So yeah, third place, Newcastle. We've got
Mm,
Yakuba Minte, £6 million from Udinese. Probably, someone Brighton would have signed if Newcastle didn't. Sandro Tonali, 52 million.
yeah, good
Harvey
signing,
Barnes,
obviously.
38 million. Tino Livramento, 32 million. Tino Livramento gives them great depth at fullback, especially because both him and Trippier can probably play both sides. Um, Harvey Barnes, obvious improvement on Alan St-Maximin, at least for a system. Alan St-Maximin as an individual talent, maybe you could argue is better, but Harvey Barnes, obviously, great goal scorer, massive
Yeah, I think
pace,
I'd rather have
great
Barnes.
positionally.
I think Barnes
Yeah.
is an upgrade, to be honest.
And of course, Sandro Tonali. He's a little bit harder to sort of pigeonhole as what he does and what he is. He's a good passer, he's a good progressor, he's alright defensively, but he works fairly hard. I think he's just going to be that sort of presence and quality in the midfield. Wherever he might need to be,
Yeah,
he's going to be like that sort of versatile guy that you kind of see out of someone like Douglas Luiz, but
yeah.
potentially,
I think he's one of them who, I mean, obviously he does everything well. It seems, but I think he's one of them who's got loads of presence. Oh, fucking hell. So he's like you say, a bit like a sort of N'Golo Kante, but more physical, a bit more, maybe a bit more rounded in terms of passing range and stuff. But he's got that physical presence where he doesn't give the other team a second. Um, and when he's in that midfield, it kind of just puts the pressure on the other team, takes the pressure off his teammates as well, because he can put tackles in, make interceptions, and then is reliable on the ball. So he's just kind of like, it's hard to pigeonhole him, isn't it? But he's just a
yeah,
good all-round midfielder. He's just an upgrade,
yeah.
basically.
I think as well we might see a little drop off defensively from Newcastle just because last year was so
Yeah, I agree.
outrageous. As much as
Yeah,
they are good defensively, to have that good a defensive
yeah,
season
that
is
was
an
an
anomaly.
insane season. Yeah,
So
I
I think we
agree.
could see a drop off there. Attacking wise, Wilson I think will stay about the same. Ishak probably improve. So I do see them possibly getting better in sort of the movements that are happening on the pitch and the pieces of play they create. Dropping off maybe defensively. The main thing that's going to be interesting to see this season is because of the increased additional minutes to try and increase the actual amount of playing time they have on the pitch could really impact a team like Newcastle because a lot of their game is essentially intensity, high
Yeah,
press,
yeah,
and then you're wasting time off the ball to
yeah,
try and recover because obviously if you're going to be the highest pressing and hardest working team in the league, you know you better have the best athletes or a good way of sort of recovering. And so far, time wasting in some sense of the word has been their tactic for doing that. But obviously, it's not going to be the same this year. So whether
yeah. It's
that will
interesting, actually.
impact them hugely or just to a minor extent, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I obviously I've got my top four done. I put Villa fifth, sixth. I didn't put anyone. Seventh, I've got Brighton. Eighth, I've got Chelsea. I obviously think they're going to finish above those two. So I suppose I've got Newcastle in sixth.
yeah. I'm gonna do some shifting. I've got my whole table written out now, and it just doesn't look right. So I'm gonna shift Villa up to fifth.
Ooh, okay,
Um, I'm gonna put. I want to put Newcastle in sixth,
okay.
but so I've basically got between sixth and seventh. I've got Chelsea and Newcastle. Um, I'm gonna put Newcastle sixth,
Okay.
and I bumped Chelsea down to 7th because I think like the more I think about it, while they've got maybe as good a manager as Villa, maybe a better manager than Newcastle, and maybe better squad on paper than both those teams, they don't have the settled kind of thing that Villa and Newcastle do. Villa and Newcastle have just been gradually improving on something that's already working. So Chelsea have been bumped to 7th. Newcastle are 6th, below Villa.
Okay. Okay.
So who
I
have we got
might
left?
make a small change because
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So Newcastle. Well, who have we got next? Nottingham Forest. Should we do? Let's finish it off and then we can
Yeah.
change if we need to. So Nottingham Forest. Chris Wood in, Ola Aina in, Anthony Elanga in, Matt Turner in. Out we have Cafu, Colback, Jesse Lingard, Andre Ayew, and other players I've not really heard of.
Yeah, they've not really lost anything. They've made,
Not too significant, yeah.
I mean, their signings also aren't really exciting. Alanga could probably do something decent for
Yeah.
them.
I think Turner's not as good as Henderson, obviously not as good as the world class goalkeeper that's won the Champions League that I've somehow forgotten the name of.
Keylor
Keylor
Navas.
yes, that's the one. He's not as good as them, so they are going to drop off in the goalkeeping department. Chris Wood was already there and kind of average.
Mm,
Ola Aina, fairly unknown quantity. He's come out of the Chelsea academy, but you know he's been abroad for so long now. I don't know. Anthony Elanga showed quality in spurts, but is he going to displace someone like Brennan Johnson or Morgan Gibbs-White? I don't think so. So for me, I think I'm going to put them in. I think 16th.
fair. I've got them in 12th.
Ooh.
Not because I think they'll have an especially good season, but I think they'll improve a bit because they've not lost anything significant. They've made a couple of decent signings, and also last season the main thing was that they signed 1 million players, and it took them a while to gel. I don't know how good their manager is in terms of pushing up the table, but I think the squad will be more settled than it was last year. They've kept Brennan Johnson so far. There's actually there's some really good players in their squad, and I think there's loads of teams who are less settled and in a lot more trouble than them. So yeah, I've got them 12. I would say that they're in a bracket. In my mind, they're in a bracket with Palace and Fulham.
Okay.
12th to 14th.
From that.
I've got Palace, Fulham. I've got Forest, Palace, Fulham, 12, 13, 14. They could probably alternate. I think they're in that same bracket.
Okay. I mean, there is the potential for some of those players with big upside to just explode and put them up towards the top half of the table. But with the amount of other teams that are showing quality that are more established than them, because I know you said they're one of the more settled side, but I think having bought so many players last year, that are realistically, as a squad, still settling into exactly who plays where and who's above who. Bringing more players into that, I think it's just going to be another settling year, and it's going to be quite similar overall. I think it'll be maybe second half of the season or next year if they are going to get a significantly amount better. That's when we'll see it. So
I mean, I don't think they'll be significantly better. I just think they'll be a bit better, and that'll be enough. Considering you've got teams like Everton, Burnley, who are kind of unknowns. I think Forest. I think they'll be a bit better than last season. I think that'll be enough to kind of put them in a not necessarily. I think between 12th and 11th, I've got Brentford 11th. I think there'll be a massive gap.
yeah.
They're not really in the mid-table bracket in my mind, but they're also in the quite comfortably staying up kind of bracket. So
Okay, I think that's probably one of the bigger disagreements we've had. Sheffield United, Benny Traore, no idea. Another, I think, Norwegian league player.
don't know who
Alice
any of those
Slimani,
players are.
Brøndby, another Danish or something player. Larouci on loan from Troyes, young fullback, I believe. Austin Trusty, another young fullback from Arsenal. Nothing to say they're going to be significantly better there. Vinny Souza from Espanyol's a decent level defensive midfielder who should come in to replace Sander Berger for a profit as well, a £5 million profit on that swap, if you like to call it that. They've lost, of course, Iliman Ndiaye, who's their big talisman, Sander Berge, of course. So
Yeah.
it's just it's got 19th written all over it, hasn't it? To be honest.
Yep. I got him in 19th.
There's
Yeah.
not much more you can say. We don't know a whole lot about most of the players. Chances are they're not going to be world beaters. So they'll probably do what they're expected to do and get relegated. But you never know with the Premier League, so we will see. Now, a
Yeah.
bit more.
I don't know what to say about them. I
Yeah,
don't know any of their signings. I think they'll finish above Luton and below everyone else.
fair enough. Tottenham. Right.
Tottenham.
Here is the interesting thing. Because obviously Pedro Porro, wing back, not a full back. Who's that guy coming back off loan from Udinese? Wing back
I don't know.
Udoji. He
Oh yeah.
very young, talented wing back. Again, not a full back. I'm pretty sure Ange Postecoglou plays a four at the back system.
He does, but
Typically,
he plays very, very high fullbacks. Very
yeah.
attacking
So
fullbacks.
it's going to be interesting to see how that works. Vicario, goalkeeper, going to be an upgrade on Larry because he was falling apart by the end of last season. But will he be Prem quality, like top half, top six Prem quality? Who knows? Manuel Solomon coming in, decent backup winger. Mickey van der Ven, personally, don't know too much about him. I know he's a tall, athletic, left-sided centre-back, which is always a great thing to have in a squad. But again, many players have come in for around the £30 million fee, around 20, early 20s to the Premier League and not succeeded. So I'm not going to say too much
Yeah, a
on
bit of an
him.
unknown.
The thing with this squad is, I think, the starting 11 mostly stays the same. The only real change is going to be Maddison coming in and probably Mickey van der Ven. As you've just said with Mickey van der Ven, don't really know too much. Maddison's going to be the big sort of X factor in this side. Whether or not that sort of... Well, I'm trying to do this based on the fact that Kane's staying. They can form obviously an incredible partnership, especially being both from the same country, probably great friends already from the national team. I just don't think what you get from Maddison will replace what we've sort of lost from Son. Son's gone from
Yeah.
pretty much, he had a Salah level season, dropped off completely to below average winger sort of level, and who knows if he drops off even more this season, what's going to happen with Son.
I could see him improving. Not
I,
gonna
I,
lie.
I think attacking wise, Tottenham will improve, but more because of Postecoglou rather than the actual personnel they bring in.
Yeah, well, I think that's why Son might improve because I think Postecoglou will get the best out of him. He's the kind of player that Postecoglou liked at Celtic, kind of similar, kind of pacey kind of. He's kind of a similar kind of winger inside forward that Postecoglou used at Celtic, but just a lot better than any of them he had.
Yeah,
I think what worries me about Tottenham is like, I mean, their attack looks amazing on paper. If they keep Kane, they've signed Maddison. I think their attack is like really promising. Also, he's a very attacking manager.
yeah,
Yeah, the defense is the worry really because Van der Ven is an unknown. Pedro Porro, like you say, I think he will work as Postecoglou plays super attacking fullbacks, but could be a bit of an issue. And then centre mid, they've got Bissouma, who's obviously good, but wasn't great last season, and Højbjerg, who seems to have dropped off quite significantly from when they signed him. So I think they'll improve. I think it will take them a bit of time because when Postecoglou was at Celtic, it took them a while to get used to his system because he plays quite a dramatic brand of football.
yeah.
I think it'll take them a while, but I think they'll warm up to it, and I think they'll end up having a good season. But not a brilliant season. I've got them 8th.
Yeah, that's. I think they'll improve attacking wise. I think we could see them stagnate a little bit defensively, especially in the holding midfield spots.
Yeah,
Possibly even have a bit of a down year. Again, look, we always have to remember this is Tottenham, and it's a weird thing to have something so subjective that's held so in such high esteem in terms of judging a football club. Normally, if someone goes, "Yeah, but it's this club," and that's their reasoning for it,
Yeah,
it's like you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. But when it's
yeah,
Tottenham, again and again, they do just seem to have this opposite of an X factor, like just to just somehow shite, no matter what they
yeah,
do, relative to the level of their squad and the
yeah.
expectations on them. So, personally, I've got them finishing ninth this year. Maybe we'll see them improve in the future, but for me, that's
Yeah, I think they'll improve because I think the thing that's changed with them is the manager, and I think Postecoglou's got more of a Pochettino feel about it than a Mourinho Conte feel. I
is it
think
because it starts with PO.
no, but maybe subconsciously. But he's more of an unknown manager with a very distinct style, like Pochettino was. Plays quite an attacking brand of football, like Pochettino did. Mourinho and Conte were like Tottenham. They'd finished in the top four a couple of years. They were like Tottenham were like we're going to go and win things now. But they picked two managers that didn't really suit their players, didn't really suit their kind of culture as a club. So they were just naff signings as managers. And I think they're going back to a kind of managerial appointment that is more smart. They're still owned by Daniel Levy, who's kind of ballsed up the Kane thing a little bit, although maybe not if they keep him. But I
Just go
think
for free. He'll go for free next year if they
yeah,
keep him.
yeah, which it kind of is fine for me. I think if it means they have a decent season this year, it's kind of all right. But yeah, I think the managerial appointment is promising for them. I think he'll build a good team, and they'll improve this year, and then next year they'll have an even better year. But I think this year, obviously, a bit transitional. So I've got them eighth. Yeah, I've got them eighth, but they could be ninth. I've got them above Brighton, but that's kind of a coin toss for me. Eighth, ninth.
Yeah. So final spot, West Ham.
You're forgetting a team, you melon. There's two teams left.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, second to last spot, West Ham. Sorry. Uh,
Tenth.
really. See, so I've got them 10th too. But the only player they're going to have signed, other than this Sean Moore, who I've no idea who he is, it looks like they're on the verge of confirming Eddie. Is it Eddie Alvarez? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
It is Eddie. Yeah, Edson Alvarez. That's it. Yeah, from Ajax, who has been a renowned quality DM for a few years. He's been on
Hmm.
big teams' radars. Obviously, he's not
Well,
going to transform the side, but
before you start, they've apparently agreed fees for both Maguire and Ward-Prowse today,
oh shit. Okay, that
so
makes a
that maybe
difference as well.
changes things.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think either of them transform West Ham into a
yeah,
much better team. I'd still put them tenth, but I think I had them when I was thinking about the last few days. I've been having West Ham as like a bottom half, not bottom half, but mid table,
yeah.
12th.
12th, 13th.
But I think yeah, this Alvarez guy looks promising, and Maguire and Ward-Prowse. I think they've still got a very solid
Yeah,
team.
they had depth, they had quality, and West Ham have been a good team for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, they're pretty
They
settled,
had a drop off year. You're likely to see a regression to the mean. In their case, being actually improving. They finished fifth and seventh, and they dropped to 15th. Put them about halfway back up. It's around 11th,
Yeah,
10th, isn't it? So
yeah,
I think the level of that squad and some of the talents in there, as long as Moyes, I think seeing him sell the likes of Gianluca Samaka and Nikola Vasic is kind of admitting that the way he tried to shift into a more possession-based attacking side didn't work, and perhaps we might see him sort of bed into his old ways a bit more and
I think so. I mean, the
make that
Maguire
yeah
signing is obviously he's a defender who likes to defend deep and in his box, and Ward-Prowse honestly makes them scary on set pieces. Like the size of their centre backs, the fact that they're managed by David Moyes, with Ward-Prowse on the free kicks and the corners, like major threat from set pieces. I think, yeah, I agree. I think they'll go back to their David Moyes will go back to his roots a little bit. They'll be kind of, I think they'll be better than last
yeah. They
season.
still got
Well,
Jared Bowen as well.
yeah, Paqueta might go to City. I've just seen,
Oh really?
but yeah,
But
they've got a
yeah,
really good team. Like to be honest, so I think yeah,
decent squad. Yeah.
tenth. a bit below the level of like Spurs, Brighton, Villa,
Yeah, you've got two
but
different
still a
experienced
good
strikers in there as well
season.
with Ings. Like if you do happen to be playing a side where you need someone who's like a plucky little poacher in the box, then you've got Danny Ings. If you
Yeah,
need to batter the door down, then you've got. Why do I keep forgetting names?
Antonio.
Antonio. That's all. Michael Antonio. So
Yeah,
yeah, as soon as you tell me their name, I'm like, I'm like, yeah, Michael, whatever. But then before you say it, I'm just stumped. Like, who is this man? But yeah,
um,
solid 10th position. I think West Ham
yeah.
fans would be pleased with
So
that.
last team, I've got maybe 20 minutes left, so we need to rattle through the next two bits.
Yeah,
Um, but the last team might be where we differ the most. I've got Wolves 18th.
I think I've got them 17th.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
I thought you might have them like 13th or something.
No, I mean it's pretty obvious with them. They've brought Mac Doherty back in on a free. They've made a loan signing permanent. They have lost their captain and best midfielder in Ruben Neves. They've sold one of their best defenders, two of their best defenders in
I
Cody
don't
and
know why they did
Collins.
that.
I think they just have no money, to be honest, mate. I think they're in
Yeah,
a state of almost
they
collapse.
kind of they remind me of Villa when Villa were just in decline and then we eventually got relegated.
Yeah, like Jean
And also
Martino
the thing with
cost them
them,
now
I
as
mean,
well.
you could say the same for Everton, but I've got Everton 15th. But I think Everton have got a manager who has got a bit more about him. Wolves have lost a really really good manager and got O'Neill, who did really well at Bournemouth, but
Oh, have they
is
actually lost? I didn't even hear they'd lost him. I knew it was on the cards, but oh, Matt has disappeared. Yeah, I don't know. I'll continue this, I guess. I knew, obviously, he was linked with a move away, but I didn't know he'd actually gone. Quite a quite a big announcement that. I mean, O'Neill did obviously do a lot for that Bournemouth side and kept them up with very little talent. This is quite annoying, but there you go.
hello.
Yeah, sorry, I continued without you because of the time, but basically I was saying how O'Neill has obviously done well with Bournemouth with limited resources, but with the overall decline at the club, the lack of finances, the already sort of starved attack, it's not
Yeah,
looking good.
it's
If
hard to it's hard to kind of look for optimism anywhere
Yeah,
in Wolves, isn't it?
it's a toss up between them and Everton at this point for that 18th spot.
Yeah, I think Everton have got a bit more about them. I think they've maybe now that Wolves have signed a couple of really sold a couple of really good players. I think Everton have maybe got a bit more in the squad, and I think the experience of Dyche having done a relegation battle before will maybe put them above. But yeah, I've got them 18th. Yeah,
Yeah. So, quick run through of my complete table. I've got City winning the league, Arsenal second, got United third, Liverpool fourth, Villa fifth, Newcastle sixth. I've got who is it in seventh?
Chelsea, Brighton
Brighton
seventh.
seventh, Chelsea eighth, Tottenham ninth, West Ham 10th, Brentford 11th, Crystal Palace 12th, 13th. I've now forgotten another one.
Fulham.
I think it was Fulham, one place ahead of Burnley in 14th. 15th was. God, I've really forgotten, haven't I? It's hard with the lower end. 15th was. Who was it? God. Bournemouth I had 16th, didn't I? Oh no, I had them 15th, which meant that Newcastle. No, which meant that Nottingham was 16th, which meant that Wolves are 17th, and uh, Everton 18th, and then obviously Sheffield United and Luton in 19th and
Yeah,
20th.
everybody's bottom two.
So yeah, my relegation is Everton and the others. Top four, probably everyone's top four: United, Arsenal,
Yeah,
Liverpool.
yeah.
Although
So I've
fifth
got
place is Champions League as well, so we've technically both predicted
oh, it is,
Champions League
yeah.
for Villa. Europa League then I predicted for Newcastle and Brighton, with Conference League for Chelsea. No European football again for Spurs. And yeah, a nice. I think there'll be a little bit of a relegation scrap, perhaps, between sort of Everton, obviously Wolves, but as well I'd include in that your sort of Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. I think they'll be in and around that sort of area, but there'll be a few points clear of those two by the end of the season. So yeah, that's the full table. Any more comments or onto the Villa Newcastle game?
Well, we should probably move on. I was going to do my league table, but relegation is the same except Wolves, and then I feel like 12th to 17th is just a minefield, isn't it? We've got the same teams just shuffled around a little bit.
Okay.
I've got Chelsea to finish 7th,
Who have you got in eighth for Conference League?
Spurs 8th, Brighton 9th, but I think that could be the other way around. And same top 5, same top 6. West Ham 10th, Brentford 11th. Yeah.
Fair play.
So
Yeah, keep that in your. There is actually an app we could use for this, where you can basically
yeah, I'll
join a
just keep
league
this
with your
bit here. But
friends, and you all make predictions, and then you get to see progressively over the year who's closest with their league predictions and things like that. So yeah, it'll be fun to have a look back on that. Maybe we could do like a mini sort of update on that at the end of the transfer window, but I don't think there's going to be much change from here to now unless you see the likes of Mitrovic and Kane leaving. So yeah, let's preview Aston Villa versus Newcastle United. So it's away, right?
yeah,
Yeah. We lost 4-0 away last year. Obviously,
yeah.
massively different circumstances.
Yeah.
I think we could end up coming away with a win, but a narrow win.
Yeah, I think I've got. I would say narrow win, 2-1 win, or 2-2 draw, maybe 1-1 draw.
Okay. I don't think we'll end up conceding 2 goals. We'll either keep a clean
Yeah,
sheet or concede.
I kind of thought that as I said it.
I don't think we'll score a ton. I think it'll be a sort of scruffy
Yeah,
Watkins and then a
yeah.
Diallo
Maybe I'll go
finisher or
1-0,
something.
1-0 or 1-1 rather than 2-1.
Yeah, I think
I'll
I'll
go
go.
1
I
win or 1 draw.
I think it'll be 2-0, but like close 2-0. Not a comfortable 2-0 at all. Like it'll be 1-0
Yeah,
and we'll be shitting ourselves that it's going to go 1-1, and then like right towards the end of the game we'll sink the winner and finish it off. In terms of tactically, you know,
yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? I don't know what's going to
we
happen.
completely bypassed their press last year, and now with the addition of Torres um, and Tielemans for rotation, if we wanted to play 3 in midfield, I just see us doing that even more easily and having even more options to progress forward. If you
Yeah,
then got an outlet of Diaby, you've got someone who can get in behind that high line and cause havoc. Um,
yeah. We do just sound a lot more dangerous, don't we? I think last year if we were previewing it, we'd think even under Emery, it'd be interesting to like if we did a podcast on it last year, but um, even under Emery last year, you would have thought we've got a good chance, we'll set up well, but where's the like moment going to come from where we win the game? If say it's a really tight game, but this year we've actually got so much more about us. In like Tielemans has got kind of that that bit of vision and that bit of creativity and the long shot on him. Diaby just offers you so much more up front. You've got options in midfield, options in defence if something's not working.
it's also
Um,
just the heightened ability and confidence of the players since that 4-0 result last year.
yeah,
Mings is now barely making mistakes. Of course, he's still, a little bit prone to an on-the-ball error, but we can forgive that because they're down to a minimum now. Konza just doesn't put a foot wrong half the time. Cash looks so much better in pre-season, and of course, if Konza moves out to the right back slot, that's going to be so defensively solid. Um, Obviously, Douglas Luiz, from the start of last year to the start of this year, it's all I can say. Pau Torres, obviously an incredible talent. We'll yet to see how he settles in. Buendia's looking amazing pre-season. His confidence levels looking
Yeah,
through the roof.
yeah,
Philogene going to contribute. Archer's there to contribute. We've got all these players who can come in and provide options if somehow we can't get this game over the line with the starting 11. Um,
yeah. I mean, what I could
it's
see happening is I
it's
think
a good side.
that Newcastle, because of the game last year, we beat them. They might be a bit more attuned to how we can exploit their style of play, and they might change something. I think maybe we'll go in 0-0, not looking very good, but I think where we've got maybe the advantage this year is that Emery is a super adaptable manager. He's probably got the ability to change things mid-game more than Eddie Howe, and now we've actually got the personnel to do it, and it be like really, really impactful. So I think we could see it being really cagey first half, us not looking particularly good, and then yeah, changing something and winning the game late on. Because last year we kind of overran them in the game we beat them. We just from the
Yeah,
off we were just better, but I think they'll know what to expect a little bit more this
yeah.
time.
Eddie Howe's a
Um,
smart manager as well. He might not be world class just yet, but he's a smart manager. He's adapting. He's
oh
still
yeah,
learning.
yeah,
He'll definitely come with a better game plan. Like the 2-0 sounds so much more impressive than what I'm actually expecting to happen on the pitch.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I think Sandro Tonali, while he's going to be great for Newcastle in the long term, I think they might have to adjust their style slightly to accommodate
Yeah, well, from what I've seen
where
in pre-season, he's
he's going
not
to
he's
play,
not
what he's going to
really
do.
shone.
Yeah,
So
obviously Barnes, his big thing is running in behind and scoring like that, and Leicester, of course, did that to us last season. But
yeah, that is a
I
bit
think with
scary.
how much better we seem to be getting with this consistent offside trap,
Yeah,
um, as much as teams want to do that to us, it's kind of like doing against Liverpool. It's always there, but just never really seems to work until all of a
yeah.
sudden it does.
Also,
Um,
Emi Martinez has got so much better at sweeping as well. Like he's really settled into that role really well. Because when we played Leicester, it was quite early on in Emery's kind of tenure. We hadn't really settled in the defensive shape yet. And then I remember later on in the season, we played Man United, and they really exploited the ball over the top with Rashford. Um, I think they beat us 1-0, but they only really crafted one really good chance out of a ball over the top. Um, and it was because we'd got better at the offside trap, but also Martinez was sweeping the ball really often. And it is a danger. Barnes over the top is a danger, but I think we've improved at dealing with it.
yeah, we've shown we can deal with those kind of threats time and time again.
Yeah,
Like Rashford
and
didn't get a look in at the end of last
exactly.
season.
Even Rashford couldn't
Yeah,
really exploit it too badly, so I think it's not too much of a worry.
yeah. Like Zaha, like
Um,
when we played Palace, they consistently got Zaha in behind, but consistently he was offside. It
yeah,
just goes to show the fine margins that we create using that system, and you really
yeah,
do have to be on the ball uh, to make that work. So yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about us all over the pitch. Of course, we did say with a full pre-season under his belt as well, Unai will probably make this squad look even sharper, even more fine-tuned, finely drilled. So yeah, I'm finding it hard to look past at least a deserved win, if not a full 3 points for Villa.
yeah. I don't know. Could be a draw, but I think I'll go with a win. 1-0 win.
Should we finish off quickly with FPL? Quickly
Yeah,
go over
man.
our
I think
teams, and
I'm pretty settled on my team now.
I think I will change mine on Friday slightly, but I haven't decided where yet. It might be at the striker position I do that. So,
Yeah, mine might be striker.
would you like to go first, or do you want me to?
So yeah, so I've got Pickford in goal. Might have to change that,
Oh, I would change.
but
If you're predicting them for like 17th, 18th, or whatever it is, and you've got him in goal, you
I
might be
know, but
in
it's
for a tough
just
season.
it's 4.5, and there's not a lot of keepers in that bracket, and he's a keeper who, I mean, Sean Dyche is a defensive manager, and he's a goalkeeper who loves a save. He makes a load of saves because they're a defensive team and they kind of defend in their box. Um, so I think obviously, I thought about upgrading him to Onana, but then I'd have to downgrade one of my midfielders or something. So I think out of the 4.5 goalkeepers, he's the best option.
Fair enough. So I've got Edison at the moment. obviously you get guaranteed clean sheets with that. Probably don't get many penalty saves necessarily. You might get a couple of assists, which is great. I could see myself changing that to Martinez just because I do back us to be very solid defensively this year, and of course he's an incredible keeper who does make a lot of penalty saves. So I might make that switch and look to reinvest that $500,000 elsewhere. But I'm pretty happy with Ederson all around. I've got 3 right backs in my defence. If you're ready to hear. So
Yeah, go for it.
I've got Trippier, James, and Alexander Arnold. So I've basically just gone all out output, attacking output.
Yeah, I had a team like that early on. I had maybe the same back line, but I had Chilwell instead of James.
Yep.
But I've gone really cheap on my defence. My current team is Gabriel 5 million, Estupiñán 5, so they're kind of middle. And then I've got Pinnock from Brentford 4.5. They're usually pretty solid defensively, and he's a big threat from set pieces. And then I've got Bell and Baldock from Luton and Sheffield United, who are both 4. They're just going to be on the bench. But my starting back 3 is Gabriel, Pinnock, and Estupiñán.
Pinnock, probably a good choice, but you do have to consider they have signed 2 centre backs in this summer window.
Yeah, but I think he's the most nailed, to be honest. I think he was their best defender last year.
He's been nailed more than any other defender on that squad.
Yeah, he's hot.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, obviously Ben Mee is also very nailed, but I think,
yeah.
I mean, if Pinnock starts not playing, then I'll fucking move him. But I think he'll at least start the season, so I'm not really worried about it.
As well's decent, cheap option there.
Yeah, he's really good value.
I mean, who have you got on the bench for your defensive positions? I've got Bayer at Burnley and Gusto at Chelsea. Because if James doesn't play, then Gusto plays, and he's an extremely talented attacking fullback.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, I've got Bell and Baldock. Bell is a Luton fullback, but he's quite attacking, so I mean, he's going to be on the bench and never play. But yeah, I've just got 2. I've gone really. Usually, I go a bit more flexible with my bench and have a few more options and some players that are like obviously not expensive, but offer something. But I've just gone full cheap shit on my bench this year.
Yeah, for me, Jordan Bayer as well. I think he could do bits for Burnley because if they do,
I did look at him
playing system. He's so cheap. He could be someone who gets further up the pitch. On occasions, could be a good threat from the box.
I think I looked at him, and then I think the reason I didn't get him is because of his fixtures.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fair enough. I kind of tend to ignore fixtures when I do my FPL team because I'm just like, how many transfers I'm going to have to make in order to readjust to what I think the best team's going to be across a season, after setting it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely the best approach generally, but I think when you've got like a toss-up between 2 4 million defenders who are never going to play, I just went with slightly better fixtures. So that's my defence. I've gone really cheap. You've gone really expensive.
Well, my backup keeper is Strakosha for Ederson. So playing at Tottenham, if for whatever reason Vicario's not playing or they lose a bit of confidence in him, that's a keeper starting for a top half side that's cheap as fuck and minutes potentially. So that's where I've gone there. Midfield, I've got Diaby, Saka, Odegaard, and Adingra. Now, probably hear you saying, good. Who? Adingra, mate, got 30 goal involvements last year in the league. And he did that in the same team, pretty much the exact same team as Mitoma came from, on loan from Brighton. But he tripled Mitoma's output. That's all I'm saying. He's had a few minutes in pre-season, he's looked good, he's contributed. The problem with Brighton is that spot there that I've put him in, that could be Mitoma, could be Kudush, could be Pedro, could be Enciso. Enciso, I think, is going to explode this year. I think he's going to be so good. He looks so talented. Like, you just don't know.
Because they've got really good fixtures as well. I've got Estupiñán but and I did look at their attackers because they've got like obviously some really good options and they're all like amazing prices.
Mm.
But I'm just too scared of rotation. I don't tend to put
Yeah,
any
they
players.
they're kind of like the new City.
Yeah, I just don't. I just can't be asked thinking about the rotation. It's too annoying when you play a fucking when you put a player in and then they're just
Yeah.
on the bench for no reason.
Well,
So
my idea is put a Dinger in to start with because of he's shown the highest sort of level reached of any of these players, apart from technically Kudus because of where he's achieved it. Although Netherlands and Belgium leagues are looking to combine, and if USG are finishing top or near top of the Belgium league, it's pretty much the same as Ajax finishing near top of the Dutch league. So you could say Dinger is like a really undervalued talent. Like if they sold him
yeah,
after one good season in the Prem, for example, if he even gets half the output he did, uh, in the Belgian league, you'd see him going for 60 mil at least. So
yeah,
it's one of those. It could be anyone there, but
yeah, yeah. It's just a
he's one
difficult
I'm
one.
quite
They've got
sort
loads
of
of good
interested
options,
in.
but
Yeah. Who's the rest of your midfield?
so I've got five in midfield: Diaby, Saka, Madison,
Yep.
uh, Bruno Fernandes, and Salah.
Yeah.
Um,
Lots of good players, gonna get a lot of points.
yeah, I thought about Saka. I thought Martinelli and Odegaard are a bit cheaper, but I think Saka's just he's on penalties. Odegaard, you don't know whether he's going to play a bit deeper. Martinelli's maybe a bit less consistent. I think Saka, you can just put him in and forget about him. So I just went for the more kind of bit more secure, more expensive option. Salah, I didn't initially have him. I didn't have him for a lot of last season, but I think
Mm.
Liverpool will improve. And he's Salah, so it's kind of
Yeah, I had
got a
him
bit
in at the
wrong.
start, to be fair, but I wanted to invest, better around the squad, and of course, Haaland, being 14 mil, yeah, you can't sign. If you sign two players of that high level with that high price tag, you really, really put yourself into a bit of a hole with the rest of the squad.
Yeah, I mean that's
So
why my defense is so cheap.
yeah,
I think about putting what I might do. I did think about putting taking Salah off for one of Liverpool's other attackers, but I just don't know who's going to play. Basically,
yeah,
if it becomes apparent that say Luis Diaz has nailed his spot down within a few weeks, I might swap him out. I might swap Salah out for Diaz just to improve another position. Um, but I'm gonna kind of let that play out.
yeah. I've sort of steered clear of the likes of Fernandez and Madison because even though they are great creators, when you're in a squad, especially so Madison, he's coming into a new squad. They're going to be very attacking, so I'm sure he's going to have output. But exactly where he's going to fit in and if he's going to be the starting guy, like week in week out, I'm not sure. That's why I've sort of not
Yeah,
gone for him. Then looking at Bruno Fernandes with a new striker coming in, with Mount coming in, what exactly his role is going to be? If he's going to be the guy setting everyone up and scoring goals, or if he's going to drop deeper, who knows?
true. I
That's why I've
personally
sort of
think that
steered
that'll. I
clear of
think it will
those.
free him up, but yeah, there is
Yeah,
a bit of a risk.
they do have big upside if they go right, but you never know, they might not. So, but again, there's lots of options. Like for example, I didn't go for Trossard or Martinelli because as well they're going to be rotating with Smith Rowe. They're going to be
Yeah, that's
rotating
the
with
yeah.
Reece
I
Nelson
don't like the
potentially.
rotation players.
Yeah, so that's why Saka's probably the best choice because he's going to be guaranteed starting on that right wing, and
Yeah,
Odegaard is guaranteed starting in an 8 or 10 role. So, two very solid picks. Diaby as well. He's clearly out and out best winger, best sort of talent you might say in our attack. Um, so
yeah.
there's
He's
no
actually a
way
really good option. Six
we don't
point
sign
five
him.
million,
Yeah,
especially as he's been playing basically striker in pre-season. Um, like most of the time, he's been playing off
yeah,
Watkins
right,
rather
sort of
than.
right forward. Yeah,
So I think he's a proper good option. I think like within a few weeks, he's selected by 6% of teams now. I think within like between 5 and 10 weeks in, I think he'll be because of his price, he'll have like 20% ownership or something. I think.
yeah. And on the bench, I've got Anderson from Newcastle. He's very,
Oh
very
yeah,
cheap, but he's had a fair bit of game time in pre-season and looked good. He's had
yeah,
contributions. He looks like he's going to start getting minutes this year. So, solid player to have on the bench who could come on and get you points. So yeah, off to the forward line. Both got 3 strikers, or have you got 2?
Two. So I've got 3 at the back, 5 in midfield with none of those players are bench players. Pretty premium in midfield, and then I've got Archer as my third forward on the bench.
Okay.
At 4.5, and I've got Jackson and Haaland.
Yeah.
Um,
I've mixed it up. I've kind of fiddled with having like Jackson in there and things like that, but I sort of went for, okay, I'm going to pick 3 strikers who are almost guaranteed to start at their respective clubs and had solid output or should improve massively based on the underlying numbers and sort of just general how you see players improve if they come into a side and they're putting up really high underlying numbers in a new side or decent underlying numbers in a new side when they're big money, young. You tend to see a big improvement, especially if they're the real deal. So I've gone with Darwin, expecting that kind of situation to happen. He's got the number 9 shirt now. I think they're going to play him up front in that number 9 role, no question.
really?
He might get rotated, but I don't think we're going to see him as much like out on the left and stuff as we did last year. I think he's going to be.
Really, I think he still might play off the left. I think they'll put Gakpo up front in a kind of Firmino role, and then Darwin will play.
I think they're more likely to put Darwin up front just because I've seen, even when they've had the likes of Diogo Jota on the pitch, who is literally a false 9, he's been playing out left instead. I think having his aerial presence in the box is something that Klopp wants to change the team like this year. How I've been saying
he has had a really good pre-season, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's a really good price, like for a Liverpool forward. I think. Yeah, I've got Haaland and Jackson, and ideally I'd have an extra million, and I'd have maybe Watkins, maybe Darwin, maybe Newcastle forward. Don't know, but Jackson's definitely my biggest gamble. Like that could go badly.
Yeah, it could go amazingly the way he's been linking up with players. So
like Nkunku just got injured, and he's playing well in pre-season. So
yeah. Well, I'll finish off my forward line because we're both being called away. But
yeah.
So yeah, Darwin, Watkins, and Haaland are my forward line. I can see a ton of output coming from that this year.
Yeah, it's quite a lot stronger than mine. Like, I've gone really premium in my midfield. I think what might happen is either one of the other Liverpool forwards will cement their position, and then I'll downgrade Salah. Or if Maddison doesn't start well, I might downgrade Maddison to a kind of 4.5 bench player, and then bump Jackson up to probably Watkins.
Yeah.
Or maybe Darwin. That's an interesting one. Been called again.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's wind this up. We've got through everything we wanted to do, but possibly half an hour longer than we wanted it to take. But if you've watched this far in and you've enjoyed it, follow,
fair play,
subscribe, like, fair play, because no one. Well, actually, 14 people watched the last one, but
maybe we're getting better.
Yeah, maybe we are getting better. I don't know, but if you are watching, cheers. Bye. Ow, laughing at my shoulder again.